This demo is for Instant Pot Chicken Vindaloo with Basmati rice. In addition to your 6 or 8 quart Instant Pot, you will need to have something to stir with. You won't be scraping anything off the bottom, so don't worry about that. You will need a bowl that you're going to marinate chicken in. You will need a pot with a lid or tin foil to go with that to cover. You will need a trivet for that pot to sit on. That's going to be the rice pot. You will need either a blender or a food processor, a strainer to rinse your rice, something to hold the hot pot with. Either of these gadgets will do. Here are your ingredients. You will need 1 cup of diced onion, some ginger. I would just use it to your liking. I like a fair amount of ginger, but it calls for a couple of slices. I find this ginger in a jar quite handy, so I use it, and I use about 1 tablespoon of that. And this recipe calls for 5 cloves of garlic, which I cannot use. You will also need a tablespoon of oil or fat. I'm using ghee in this recipe, which is what's recommended, but you could also use olive oil if you didn't have ghee. You will need a 1/4 of a cup of either white vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Next, you will need 1 cup of either diced or stewed tomatoes. I like stewed tomatoes here. And on with the spices. You will need 1 teaspoon of salt, and then a little medley of spices, 1/2 a teaspoon of cumin, 1/2 of a teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. You can use regular, but it's definitely not the same as the smoked. And then you need to decide what you want for heat. 1/2 to 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. I use only 1/2 for me. Next, 1/2 of a teaspoon of ground coriander and 1 teaspoon of garam masala. I'll put the link below to the recipe. It's great to make your own. When you're putting your spices together, just separate out the turmeric if you don't want your blender or food processor to turn yellow. Next, you will need 1.5 pounds of chicken thighs, or you could use breasts here as well. You will need 1/4 of a cup of water, and finally the basmati rice. I am using 1.5 cups of rice for this recipe, so then I will be using the equivalent amount of water, and you will need to adjust your recipe for the amount of rice that you would like to make. This 1.5 cups for us makes a perfect amount to go with the chicken vindaloo. Take your turmeric, put it right on your chicken, and now take all of the rest of the ingredients other than the 1/4 cup of water and put it all into the blender or food processor. Get it all blended up so that it is nice and smooth. And once you're done that, pour it all over the chicken. Now take that 1/4 cup of water, put it in your food processor or blender, put your lid on and just give it a mix around so that you can clean all of that lovely goodness out of your container. Give that mixture a mix. Make sure that all of the chicken is submerged. And now let it marinate for 30 minutes up to 8 hours. And once your chicken has marinated, we need to get the rice together. Put it in your strainer and give it a good rinse so that the water runs clear. So put that rice right into the pot that you will be cooking it in. Add 1.5 teaspoons of butter or ghee. Ghee really works best here. 1.5 cups of water, and then 1 teaspoon or so of salt. Then cover your pot either with foil or if you have a lid, put your lid on. Now that your chicken is finished marinating, you're just going to take it all and dump it into the insert of your Instant Pot. And if you spill it around the sides when you're doing that, make sure to clean that up because we don't want that caught. Make sure that the chicken is evenly distributed and you don't have one pile of chicken together. Take your trivet, try to fit it in there so that it touches the bottom, but there is space underneath it. Nothing should be sitting directly on top of the chicken. Then put your rice into the Instant Pot, put your lid on, and make sure that your valve is set to sealing, not venting. Then you're going to select pressure cook. We're going to pressure cook it on high and set your dial or press your button so that you change the time to only 5 minutes and then a 10-minute natural pressure release. Press start, and it should take a little while to come to pressure given that it's quite full. Okay, my timer has gone off and now I'm going to count down the 10 minutes. Now I can hit cancel on the Instant Pot and open this lid once I release the remainder of the pressure. Now it may look a little bit watery, but we are going to take out the chicken, chop it up and put it back in, and there won't be an issue. There you go. It is perfect. Now you could cut this chicken up before you cook if you wanted to do it that way as well. Let's take a look at this rice. It is just so perfectly done. It's fluffy. It's separated just enough. Now I can't wait to get this plated up. Okay, I've got to say that I love butter chicken, but this chicken vindaloo far outshines the butter chicken in terms of flavor. If you have an extra insert pot, here's where it comes in handy. Once you've taken your vindaloo out, put a new pot in and steam your veggies. Just cover everything else up. It'll stay hot enough to get your veggies steamed. I hope you enjoyed this vindaloo as much as I did.